So now moving on to this last, I think maybe this is the last highlighted one. Yeah. This deciding that you're world class and then reproving it to yourself every day. This one, I think, is fairly nuanced. And I feel like it's worth giving, the proper attention to because I think that there's a little bit of a danger in the world today from us kind of treating everyone as equal when it's not always the case. So to give you some context, if I show up to go run a marathon and I've done no training, I've done no preparation, but then someone else is at the marathon that has been training for this, working toward this for years, it might be disingenuous to sort of decide that both of us are at the same level of world classness or should be considered equals for this event. And again, I think a lot of this has to do with just having a certain amount of intellectual honesty, being okay with you maybe not being as well prepared or well situated for something, which then I think opens up the opportunity to potentially get better at these things. You don't sort of just ignore or put blinders on for the things that you are maybe not properly prepared for or have done your due diligence, this type of thing. So how is this related to deciding that you're world class? Well, what I mean about this is very different from perhaps what all of our moms probably told us, or many of our moms probably told us as we're growing up. Uh, I think that it is actually, and no disrespect to all of our parents, I think that their intentions are probably very wholesome with this. But this idea of you can achieve anything, you can do anything that you set your mind to, um, this is it's a good thing maybe to say, but I don't know that it's necessarily true. And the reason for this is that there are certain things that might be out of our grasp without an incredible amount of dedication for those things. And so just waking up in the morning and saying, I can be a professor at MIT isn't necessarily going to make you a professor at MIT. Uh, there's much more to it than that. You really need an abundance of evidence and discipline and work ethic and all of these qualities and characteristics that you have developed and demonstrated over long swaths of time, in many cases, to be at this world-class level. It could be decades of time. And this is a mindset, but it's not a mindset that is devoid of data, or it's a mindset that has no substantiation. And I think this is one of the big differences between the you can achieve anything you put your mind to versus you are going to be or are world class, but it's substantiated by data. That it's probably much easier for me at this point in my life to open myself up to building any software system in the world. And it's not because I just woke up this morning and decided that I can create massive software systems. It's that I've dedicated myself to this cause and I've incrementally worked to make myself better and better and better over years and years of time. And it's been an incremental rise, which now allows me to be in this situation where these things that historically might have been very challenging are now significantly easier. Now, what I think can be important about this is that you need to, I think, be okay with the idea that you are not yet the expert that you want to be. But in order to achieve that, you have to commit yourself to this cause and demonstrate it to yourself over and over and over again. But this all starts with the notion, I think, that you will eventually be here. You will be going to this world-class destination. And that is a mindset. So I think there's two things in tandem with this sort of world-class. Maybe there's a better way to state this. I'm not quite sure. I've tried to phrase it in a variety of ways, like this sort of elite skills, and sort of any of these I think feels slightly pretentious. But the goal is essentially that you're trying to move toward doing things that are really impactful, doing things that might be out of the reach for normal human beings, but with an incredible amount of discipline, you can get there. So there's a mindset from the beginning that is essentially saying, I am going to work toward this. This is where I want to be heading. And then every day you are proving it to yourself over and over and over again. So then you can become more and more confident about where you're heading every day through the actual experiences that you show to yourself. This is a very different approach in my mind than this, you can do anything you set your mind to. Because this feels, at least in my mind, and I think that the intentions of the people that suggest these things are likely very wholesome. But it's much more than this, you just have to set your mind to it. You actually have to put in the work. This is maybe one of the most important pieces that I feel like in today's sort of TikTok world, where we have the attention span and the focus on things for all of 30 seconds, that all of the people that I've seen do and achieve great things, it's through an incredible amount of discipline and focus on this given path in a completely unwavering fashion. And it actually leans into this other one right here, this practice a lot, this 10,000 hour rule, which is from, I believe, Malcolm Gladwell's book, Outliers, where he basically is trying to understand, where do these outliers come from? You know, how did something like the Beatles happen, or these world-class athletes? And what he finds, at least anecdotally, is almost all of these cases, these people are not actually outliers. I mean, maybe there's some outlier characteristic, but for the most part, it's just a lot of work. I think the story he talks about that maybe I found the most inspiring was the analysis of the Beatles, and how I think before they were the Beatles, I think maybe it was Lennon and Paul McCartney that were part of this band, the Ferrymen, something like this. And I don't think it had all four of them. I'm not sure if George Harrison and Ringo Starr were part of that, but there was this prior band that not many people knew about. And then on top of that, they were practicing and playing in these live club settings in England, I believe, for years. I think it was maybe 3 or more years, multiple times a week, just refining their skills. And this gave them an incredible amount of practice, and just the repetitions and the exposure and understanding that space to then when they actually form the Beatles, they're already experts and they're ready to create all of these incredible songs, this incredible music. It's not that they just formed the Beatles without any discipline or any effort and they were suddenly a smash hit. In fact, I think Taylor Swift talks about how something like 99% of the songs that she writes and works on are thrown out, that they are just not good enough for her bar or her team's bar. And many people don't see that. All they see really are her hits. But to be fair, I think, for, again, almost all the people that I know that have achieved these incredible things, the majority of the time they've spent, I think, is not on doing incredible things. It's on going through the motions of trying and failing, trying and failing, trying and failing, making this mental commitment in this particular case, as I frame it, that you are world class, that you are going to achieve this world class level of quality or expertise or whatever it is that you're striving toward. This is the goal. And so you become firmly committed to this. And then on a daily basis, you demonstrate this to yourself over and over and over again. And what happens is I think you do then start to become world class. And you start to build up confidence to where you can do all the things that you originally set out to. And so it's very much like, I think that the part that's tricky about it is it's like a chicken and an egg problem. Is I don't think that it's appropriate or necessarily meaningful to sort of wash away all of the need for doing the hard work that's going to make you world class. So just saying this, anything that you set your mind to, you can achieve. I think that that's a little bit disingenuous and it's not like wholly practical. On the other hand, I think that you don't want to put yourself in a situation where you have this negative mindset and you believe that you're not great, you will never achieve something worthwhile, and so you shouldn't even try. In fact, I think it's more of a fusion of both of them, is that you are going to follow the advice that maybe all of our parents were giving us, which is you can achieve greatness as long as you become really committed to it. But then also the introspection to understand that you are not at that point today. And so you need to put in the reps. You need to put in the work. And this is why there's this second point on you can have this mindset of this is what I want to achieve, but you have to prove it to yourself over and over and over again. And I really do think that the most important piece of this is to prove it to yourself. I think it's far too easy in today's sort of social media world to become beholden to external validation. And T and I have spoken about this in some detail in one of the former podcasts about how I think it's a very dangerous and very restricted way to live, to only feel like you're good or bad when other people tell you you are these things. And so trying to move away from that, I think, can be very important, especially to really unlock your true potential. And this is why it's really focused on proving it to yourself. It's not that you need to prove it to anyone else, but I do think that you have to demonstrate to you, I can do this. And this is what I think is the slow burn process to make you more confident, to be data driven, right? You know, as a logical person, going back to the critical thinking, just saying random things like, I can be an astronaut doesn't mean that you can be an astronaut. It just means that you just said some stuff. But if you dedicate your life to this and you work toward it every day over some large period of time, you might be able to do it. So hopefully that makes sense. I I'm probably not articulating myself as clearly as I could with this one. And it's a bit tricky because I love the positive attitude, but I really dislike the idea that things that require exceptional skill and talent can be overnight achieved. Uh, I've never seen this in my life. And I know many people that are sort of, I think, what the world would consider wildly successful. And the story that they generally share with me is pretty much the same story that I have and all the other people that I think have become truly world class. And that is, they had an incredible level of belief in themselves, yet they also had an incredible amount of perseverance to work toward the goals in the belief that they originally had.